Hello, this is Founder Layron. Happy Saturday. Going to go over some WebM version 8.9. I think there's still a little bit of confusion out there, although the community has responded pretty well. If you actually read through the Fantasy Grounds forums, you will find some help and some examples of some things that you might need in case you're having trouble with your new animated tokens or something that you downloaded. So this is the Dynamic Dungeons Patreon. This is one of the ones that Doug swore by on his video. He liked this particular artist. So when you download stuff from a third party, there's no guarantee that the actual files are going to be compatible with Fantasy Grounds. Now, in this case, they actually tell you if it's VP8, VP9. But in some cases, when you buy tokens or maps or something like that, you kind of have to know what exact format they're in because Fantasy Grounds only supports version 8. So that is one thing that might come up if you're going to start using animated assets. So the creators all make them differently, and sometimes they're just not compatible with Fantasy Grounds, so you'll have to probably end up converting them. So they weren't made for Fantasy Grounds directly, so they're going to have variation depending on where you get them from and what they are. So this is just one of many. This is Dynamic Dungeons. I found another place called Benio's Tokens, but what I found out is that they actually have VP9 files, and then this JB2A, these are animated spell effects and such. So far, I found that they have both version 8 or version 9, depending on which content you get. So I'm going to go to a thread that I read through on the Fantasy Grounds forums. And this was created by Trenlo, so this information is out there. You just kind of know where to look and kind of read through the forums. Nonetheless, when you download the files themselves, when you actually have them on your hard drive, so for example, this is a map that I downloaded from the Dynamic Dungeons. There's no way to tell if it's how it was converted or what the format is. So if that's the case, if you need that information, he's provided a way that you can look that up without having to actually create have a different app or a program. So what you'll do is you're going to change the view of the window. So if I go to this window here, up here, this is Windows 11. This also works in 9, but it's slightly different. But if you go to View, you go to Details, and then what you do is up here, there's these rows which go across. These are your columns. So if you right-click where the columns are supposed to go, you click on More, and then you can come down and scroll to Video Codec, which is going to essentially give you what the format was for this particular file. So this is vertical resolution. Now I want video compression. So when you do that, you hit OK, and it will add another column here. And you might have to expand the window out, but essentially what will happen is when you click on these and you go to right click on them, it will give you the actual data for that information. So if you want this to show up, let me make sure I'm in the right. So I got to be in, let's see. I got to be in View, okay, and then Details, and then I right click, and then you add the video compression. So that's, essentially what you want. And if you want any other information, you can also select those if you're going to do this. And then what you'll end up noticing is that you'll get these file names. Let's see, what is this? This is WebM. I don't know why it's not giving me the properties right now, but essentially it should be giving you the compression details. What it looks like is this. So you come over here, you see that there's video compression enabled, and then what will happen is down here you'll get this long list. I think my folder has to refresh because I just changed it. So if I refresh this, let me go here and then go back. Yeah, it's not showing. I don't know why, but nonetheless, it'll show you this when you have this set up right, and you'll get this string of numbers here, this video compression. So this is number of pixels, 272. That might be why, because I don't have a wide enough column. Let's see, what's this? So we'll go to the columns. Let's see, size column to fit. And then we'll go to, okay. And then let's see. So video compression. Yeah, I want to go like 250 because it's a long string of numbers. So I kind of want to see that. Okay. But once you do that, you'll be able to see the string of numbers. And if you see this little digit on the fourth, the 3308, 33039, this is how you'll know if it's version 8 or 9. So at a glance, you'll be able to see what your files are, especially if you have a whole folder of them. This makes it a lot easier. So you only need this fourth number from the row. And that's what this is basically telling you. And if you're kind of confused with what I'm telling you, I put this actual thread, and I'll put that on the end of the video. So if you have, any doubts or you want to go and figure this out, you can do that from here. So if you go to this page, and it explains in the Fantasy Grounds forums what VP works. So VP9 doesn't work for Fantasy Grounds. So if you have a bunch of VP9 files, you're going to have to convert those over. So that's kind of what this is about, is just identifying the files. Unless where you download them directly tells you that's what they are, you're not going to know. So that's the first step, is you got to identify the file type. So before you even add them to Fantasy Grounds, you're going to want to do this. So what you'll get is like this picture here. It's showing these blanks. That's what you'll get if you have a VP9 file. So whether it's a map or a token, it's going to look blank. And that's because Fantasy Grounds is not set up to run or to look at or view VP9 files. Generally, VP9 files are a codec that's a little bit higher than VP8. In other words, it is capable of HD and 4K and that sort of thing, whereas these ones probably go up to 1080 and that's about it. That also helps keep the file size down. So if you're wondering why they didn't go to VP9, it's probably because of that, or maybe that's just the way the encoder they used. But everyone does this a little different. So when you buy these tokens, you're usually going to come across all kinds of variations. So one solution, now there are many ways to do this, but one solution that I'd read in the forums, again, I put another link in there, is to download an app called Shutter Encoder. So this is a really complex and yet simple interface where you can actually convert stuff. So you can render, you can queue it, you can do all kinds of really cool things. And this is free. It is donationware, so that when you download it, it'll ask you to put in $10 donation, but you don't have to. And what's going to happen here is that once you've installed it, and by the way, it's got Windows and Mac and Linux and all kinds of different variations of it. But basically, this is the app here that I downloaded. And this will allow you to convert either one file at a time, or you can do it in batches. But essentially, you could take any file that you have that you're concerned about. So in this case, this is let me see if I can get this to play to just my computer. Yeah, it's not playing here, but that's probably because I don't have the codec. But what we can do is take this and load it in here. You can either drag and drop it in here, or you can simply just navigate to your folder. So what I'm going to do is just minimize this, and I'll drag this over and drop it into this folder here. So this is Castle Ravenloft, the front courtyard area. And what you'll see is right now it's on a VP8. It's probably already a VP8 file, but I wanted to show you that. And then once you have it loaded in here, you're going to pick what source or what file format you want, and then you want to come over here and look, and you want to make sure that the file has no audio. So in other words, if you get a file that has an audio channel, you need to change the settings to say no audio. So even if you can't hear the audio or you can't see any activity with audio, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not there. It could be a channel that's left over from when they converted it, because a lot of these are GIF files or movie files that were converted over to the WebM format. So they're usually short little movies for these animations. So make sure there's no audio channel, because that won't work either. The next thing is enable the alpha channel. So this is so it retains its transparency. So if it has a clear background, you'll be able to maintain that. There were some earlier attempts at converting files using Handbrake. And if you're not familiar with that software, it doesn't support the alpha channel as far as I know, unless there's a, I don't mind being wrong about that, but basically you'll have a wider background, and that's not what you want with tokens. So to make sure that that's set to that. That's an important step. So you're going to take the shutter encoder, load up your files, take a look at them, and you can right click on them and go to file information, and it will tell you more information about the file. And right here under the video, under the ID, it tells you. So this one's actually already at VP8, so I don't need to convert it. But if you had a VP9 file, you could just select the drop down and then you select the format that you want. So you might go with this VP8 and then do the setup like here. One really cool thing I want to mention is that you can actually edit the file. So if you click editing, it pops up a separate window that allows you to edit the file. So if you want to make it a little lighter or a little darker, you can do that. You can also play it here. See, this does have an audio file. We don't want that. So this one actually has audio, so we need to take that out. So that's an issue with this, is if it has audio, it'll break the encoding. So let me pause that. So that's why I checked it, because I have no idea. So what I want to do is make sure that when I'm converting this, I want no audio 1, no audio 2. That's usually left and right for stereo. And then make sure that this enable alpha channel. This should also make the file size a little smaller. So if you don't have audio channel, it'll shrink the file a little bit. So that is that. So let's go ahead and hit start function. So you might have a VP8 file, but if it has audio, it's not going to help you. So you want to strip the audio out of these things. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start, and what it'll do is it'll convert it for you. And just remember that the bigger the files, like this is a map file with audio and everything in it, it's going to take a bit. So whether you have a fast computer or not, this could take a little while. So I would recommend, if you're going to do batches, to do them in smaller batches, like maybe a dozen files at the most. Otherwise, you're going to be tying up your computer with all these conversions. Either that, or select it, let it rip in the middle of the night, and wake up the next day and deal with it. But this is just in case you want to do a couple at a time, and I recommend you do it that way if you can. And you can see that here's the progress down here. It's not too bad, but this is only one map. So you can imagine if you had a whole bunch of them, this would take a while. And it's really not much you can do about it. It's just the physical nature of computers and how the conversion process works. If you ever worked with video editing, you know exactly what I'm saying. It takes a while to re-render the file. So if you don't have a good video card, you got a slow computer, this might take a while. So just letting you know that up front. So now that it's converting it, I feel safe of putting it into Fantasy Grounds, because some of the things you might see is it might be blank, but then you also might see that it's a WebM WebP8 file, and then not realize there's audio attached to it. So like I said, even if there's no audio that you can hear, that channel can still be there. It would just be silent. But this one actually had a file that has sound, so that was kind of cool, but Fantasy Grounds doesn't support that. So okay, so this is a VP8 right here. So it remarked it or relabeled it, which is nice because it says VP8. So when it does the conversion, it includes the file format that it compressed it to, or that it changed it to. This one is a VP8, but this is the one that has the audio. So you look at the file size, it reduced it about 1/3. So taking the audio channel out really helps, because it actually kills some of that space or that the file size, and that's kind of something you got to worry about when you're sharing these across the internet. It's just not everyone has a good connection. So anyway, so this is just the preliminary step for converting. So you can set up your computer to give you the information about it. So if I go to view details and then I just click on the column and then go to, if there's a video compression, I don't know why it's not showing it right now, but essentially it usually gives you the ID. I think I have to refresh the folder, but anyway, so this is the way to convert them, or one way. There's other ones that do command lines and such, but I know that Handbrake doesn't do a very good job with animated tokens because they have a transparency. Probably works okay with maps because they're solid, but when you have a token that has, you know, some blank space around it, some transparency, the Handbrake will give you white or black background. That's not what you want. So this encoder, the shutter encoder, seems like a good way to go. It's very, very useful. It's free, essentially, and it's pretty robust. Like, if you can edit files and all kinds of stuff, it's pretty neat. The other thing you can do that I haven't checked yet is if you have like a favorite video that you want to convert into a WebM, you could do that. If you already have GIF files or some kind of short little movie clips, you can kind of make your own. The only problem with that is the file size. So if you're going to have to kind of dumb it down a little bit. So if you go with a VP8, make sure that the audio is not included and that you're not trying to go past like 1080 as far as scale and resolution goes, because that's roughly where the VP8 is. So that's something that you'll learn as you go on, as you're converting content. So let's see what this map looks like in Fantasy Grounds now that I have it converted. So if I go to Fantasy Grounds and I'm going to go to Assets. Now this is how you would add content to your game. So I'm got this images highlighted here or selected, and now I'm going to hit Folder, and this is going to give me the back end of Fantasy Grounds for this particular campaign. So this folder is within a campaign. It's not in the general folder where you'd put most of your like tokens and such. So what I'm going to do here is right click. I'm going to make a new folder called Maps because I want to kind of keep it organized. And then I'm going to take that file and drop it in here, the one that we converted. And that's the one that had the audio attached to it. So I want to make sure I grab the right one, because this one here is a little bit bigger file and it has audio embedded into it. So I want to left click and drag or copy and paste, whatever you want to do, cut and paste. So this file is 18 megs. So that's a pretty good size file. It doesn't sound huge, but when you're transferring files back and forth between Fantasy Grounds and your clients, this can add up pretty quick. So once you've added a file, whether it be a static image or animated, whatever, you have to refresh the assets folder. So down at the bottom, under assets on the bottom of the frame, you hit this folder refresh, and then click on, you'll see a campaign folder. And when you click this, that map should be in here, and it already looks good. It's already starting to show that it's going to work. So now what I'm going to do is close this out, and this is my preview. So I can create the image record, and it'll bring that up. And now I'll be able to use it in Fantasy Grounds. So now you just use it like you would with some of your other assets that you have in your game. So at this point, I can put a grid on it. I think this one is, I think it said 60, but we'll find out. Yeah, so this is too small. So probably, let's go with 80. See what that looks like. Yeah, that's pretty close. But you get the idea that you're going to have to kind of toy around with conversions occasionally when you buy assets that are, you know, or made for whatever. It's not really necessarily made for Fantasy Grounds, so that's why you have to convert them. Yeah, I don't remember what the scale was supposed to be on these. That would have been helpful if I would have paid attention. Okay, there's 60. So this is why it's kind of important to know what you're getting and what kind of file. So what I'm going to do is go back to the original folder that I had used when I downloaded this, and I want to look at to see what the file size was. So if I come up here and go to this file here. Okay, so it's either 40 or 50. So that's what, what this recommends for size. So we'll go ahead and try one of those. So let's try 40. So I think that makes more sense. And that might be why it wasn't lining up. Yeah, so this looks, yeah, that's more like it. So this is closer to what it's supposed to be. Yeah, you can kind of tell because of the way the map is set up here and the way it lines up with the lines here. So you can play around with the scale, but nonetheless, this is the kind of thing you're going to be going through when you're doing a conversion, when you're checking things out. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit this yellow so I can see a little better. And then if you need to play around with it, you can. So you might have to go with like 42 or something like that just to get it closer, because this is kind of off a little bit. Like you can tell from the corner here, like where it's not lining up very well. It's kind of the way they made the map, the way it's rendered, something to do with that. But if you really have to, you can take this layer here and you can actually, if it's unlocked, you can actually move it. Try to get it to snap to grid, but it's not really doing it because of the way the size or the scale isn't quite there. Yeah, I don't know exactly. There we go. Yep, that's it. So 40 is what it's just what you want to see when you're lining these maps up. So this one is at 40 per square inch. So 40 pixels. So it is a little blurry zooming in. So when you're normally playing with these, you're normally out here, but on a big map like this is kind of big for Fantasy Grounds in regards to dimensions. I mean, it's not overly big, but it's kind of big. If this file were to be higher resolution, then the video file itself would be a lot bigger. So they kind of have to keep it down a little bit so this isn't going to be too hard on your system. Or, well, locally it's probably fine. It's the players and people that are attached to you when they play that you got to be concerned about. So it looks pretty good. Now I'm going to turn down the opacity on the actual grid because it looks a little too obnoxious. There we go. Oh, cool. There's some bats coming by. Would be neat if we could keep the audio, but it's really not necessary if you have Sirenscape and you could do all that sort of thing. So this is the opening scene here for Ravenloft, and that particular artist was, let's see, who are those guys? Yeah, that was the Dynamic Dungeons. So this is one of the people that Doug's trying to talk to get to bring in assets for Fantasy Grounds and some other artists. But this is just a recommended one. I don't think you don't have to go with that one. But I was going to do a conversion for my own video because I have this GIF file that I wanted to use for a background. So let's say you want to use this as your background for your game. So if you convert this to the WebM format, I want to see how this looks. So I'm going to take the encoder, go to Browse, and let's go up a level, another level. Okay, that's campaign. So I want to go to my downloads folder. So let me close that and actually go through the Explorer. Okay, so here's my downloads folder. And I'm going to look for that GIF file if I can find it in here. Yeah, I think it might be in the other. Sometimes it downloads to it whatever folder it wants, which I really hate that. But anyways, if I go to downloads for the regular and go to video, it's probably there. No? Interesting. Okay, so anyways, I have this video that I downloaded from one of my other patrons, but it's actually a video. It's not a, what do you call it? It's not VP8 or anything like that. It's just a GIF file. So if I go to my downloads folder and then right click and sort it by type, that might help me find it. So I got so much crap. Okay, here it is, Volcano GIF. So I'm going to take that and drag and drop it. I'm going to remove this other one because I don't want that. So I will delete that. Okay, So this is just a GIF file. So I want to bring it out to this VP8 format. I want to, just in case, I'll leave the alpha channel, and I want to make sure it has no audio, so it doesn't look like it does. So once I've done that, I'll go ahead and hit this start function. Okay, so it looks like it tried to make something for me, which is helpful. And let's see. So volcano. Yeah. So anyways, I'm going to do this conversion another time. I don't want to waste your time, but basically this is the type of thing you go through if you want to do conversions.